I got stuck in a mansion again. Wait, how did that happen? Didn't we just do that? And yeah, also welcome to the crazy episode. What is so crazy about this episode? Well, nothing much really, actually. It's pretty much the same as always, but as some very detective people amongst you have figured out already, and I repeat myself, streaming this slightly alters the gameplay. And given that, well, I'm assuming I'm coming reasonably close to the grand finale of this will be the last streamed episode. Or in other words, I will just put everything that I've streamed so far into this episode, which I've now realized it's actually quite a lot. So we better get going. And with that, I welcome you to the episode that some of you will most likely hate quite a lot. So I hope you enjoy very much. And all of this joy, it starts right here with these two people. So there's Abigail asking for help, and we right away have to make life-changing decisions. As I've become very good in those, or as I simply don't learn from my past mistakes, we start the Misthalin, fuck names in this game, mystery quest. So let's see what happened here. And the mystery seems to be around a house party on an island. Sounds pretty good so far. But then they got attacked. Which, well, okay. So let's find out where I come in. And apparently my job is now to bring a psycho to justice. I mean, sure, nothing easier than that. Technically, I've done more difficult tasks. Well, okay then. I was told that the boat that they escaped on is right there, and this one will bring me to the island. And one absolutely insane transition later, a somewhat familiar sight. As it turns out that for this quest, the Runescape creators have been going above and beyond and simply copy-pasted the haunted mansion I have just escaped from. And I'm back. And of course very exhilarated if you can't tell. But mostly questioning how the hell did I actually pull that off. Better yet, the door is once again locked. And this time from the outside. So instead of being trapped, I can't even get in this time round. I'm starting to really think the game is exclusively mocking just me. Constantly. Fine, let's find a key then, and once again a very conveniently placed cutscene gets this guy killed. He's dead now. Well, in theory, but this is now eternally drawn out for some reason. And in between all of that mess, the game is also then telling me about something shiny falling out of a shirt pocket and into a barrel of water. And apparently that's the moment where I think to myself, well, obviously it's my job to figure out what's going on now. Of course, very logical things just happened, so might as well. First, we have to use this small bucket to empty that whole barrel of water. If that doesn't make any sense to you, then you're definitely wrong here. But that allows us to fish out the key from the barrel, and this time we are actually allowed in. My first course of action once inside is instantly picking up this knife from a table because I will definitely need it, I'm sure. Or this is merely just evidence of my past abuse in this game, but more likely it's just this haunted place, I think. Well, let's get going then. I click a door, which apparently, well, once again gets someone killed. My bad, I guess. I will let someone else do the clicking now. But I get a love note underneath the door, so that's something. Isn't murder just a work of art? Beautiful, yet haunting like the blade of a knife as we wander through the valley of death. If that once again makes absolutely no sense to you, then you're definitely at the wrong place. So I'm definitely at the wrong place. But to be fair, I knew that the moment I saw this house. Let's be honest here. It does turn out though that most likely picking up the knife earlier was definitely of good use. So my first thought is I am now looking for Valley of Death, whatever that is. And wouldn't you know, stabbing this particular picture, which I guess is a valley and it's a very deadly one, and we find a red key, which might be a good moment in time to mention that every door has a colored knob. This might be connected. And I also have kind of figured out the theme of this whole thing by now. New room, new puzzle. I know, I'm quite talented. Must be a pleasure watching this, but the pleasure usually stops right about this moment when I actually try to figure out what these puzzles mean. This one is reasonably obvious. There's something that could be burning, and in the room over there is something actually burning. But how do we now connect those two things? And as I now spend minutes pretty much once again, as per usual, running around all over the place place and clicking pretty much everything. This is where we also reach this point in time where it's kinda hard to recreate my thought process really, which kinda implies that I had one to begin with. Not so sure about that one, which might be the reason why it's now 15 minutes later and I haven't figured out jack shit. All I know for sure it's definitely fire related and we have to blow up this barrel here, but we can't because of a wet fuse. But me then reading the words unlit candle might have finally done the trick. Did I figure that out because it was pretty much the last possible thing I could have done, or because of people conveniently standing in front of the candles? That is for future scholars to decide when they discuss that matter in the YouTube comment section, I'm sure. And if this interference is already triggering you, oh boy, you're up for one hell of an episode. But I already digress. Lighting all the candles was apparently warming up a room that has a massive hole in it, and if that yet again makes no sense, then yeah, we've been over this. I light the fuse and flee the room, and once again impressive cutscene later, we actually have a hole in the wall, I think. So I was kind of taking that away from the game, I think. Yeah, my bad. It's a roleplay game after all. I might be lacking that a little. Regardless, another room, another puzzle, and to not now be stuck in a 1 hour segment of just this house, where I'm pretty much just once again highlighting my utter incompetence when it possibly comes to very simple tasks. Let's speed this process up a little bit maybe. So, well, you know, same old. There is a cutscene, there's someone dead, there's another love letter. It's like music to my ears, the glorious sounds spelling out your fate. Which essentially means I can finally actually play a piano in this game. I'm excited! Up until the point where it took me another 10 minutes of playing the most enchanting songs to consider that my fate, according to the guy in the cutscenes, is that I will also die, and we eventually spell out dead. And there were a bunch of other variations of the word that I'd rather not get into right now. But I'm now a green key owner, and whoops, someone else is dead. Really shocking development. And all of that brings me to a very faithful love letter this time around, and you can already tell it's a special one because of how long it is. That's usually how it is, I think. Also, I am not reading all of this. If you want to know what's there, just pause the video, but essentially there's a bunch of things hidden in here, and there's also a bunch of time required to figure that out, especially if you are me. And I pretty much spent the next half an hour at least simply just reading this thing, rereading this thing, definitely realizing that there is certain buzzwords like these words, final letters, start to end. But the most obvious one, which is simply reading the first letters of every word, giving us the word hearth, is something I entirely ignored because I never knew that hearth, such as in hearthstone, is an actual word. The more you know. But I eventually do stab the fireplace, as you do, if this does not make it. Anyways, there is now this. And with this, there is now another hour of my lifetime gone, until I finally figure out that this time it is the last letter of every word that eventually determines the order of the gems, and I now have a blue key. Also, I am really glad that I, out of all people, am the one that chose to play this game without guides. Great idea. But on a serious note, I'm still genuinely enjoying these parts. Maybe there's something wrong with me personally, that's definitely not off the table yet, but I do enjoy these puzzles. And just like that, there's another cutscene with the guy coming out of the closet, finally. Get it? Our guy then doing the cliche villain before boss fight talk. And just like that, we are in the aforementioned boss fight. And this is the actual boss fight where there is actual mechanics, as the game so far was pretty much left click the guy and then we'll see what happens. But here, which I guess was to be expected, the whole boss fight is also a puzzle. And also, to no one's surprise, it definitely took me a little bit to figure out the mechanics and the whole moving this thing around. But yeah, essentially you just want to reflect back the attacks with a mirror. which once you figure that out is really more tedious than anything else. But once you pull that off often enough, there is another cutscene. I know, incredible. But yeah, now it's time to see who really is under that mask, and of course they say that. And shocking reveal! Oh, it was Abigail all along. You might remember her from, well, a few hours back actually, but to be honest, that's mainly my bad. Really sorry. And then of course there is the I explain everything monologue afterwards, which is actually reasonably clever because this whole puzzle thing has always been about the hero helping, but he can't, which is now explained in even more detail. But if I would have now also added the story into this, then the video would have never find an end, to be honest. And the majority of you know this story anyways. And you guys also know that there is another twist. The also injured guy is also here. Lady then stabs the guy. I get to stab the lady. She then gets back up, of course, because it was all a ruse. Entering another lady out of a closet. Fucking Mandy over here then very stylishly kills the other lady. Oh, by the way, she's alive because of dextrocardia, in case anyone wondered. But despite being stabbed, she is waiting right outside to hand out the quest reward. And I'm definitely second guessing my use of time here, but I take it. Because this finally ends this misery, and I can leave this island and hopefully never have to enter any haunted mansion ever again. And if none of this made any sense to you, you have come to the wrong place. Because it would possibly make even less sense to jump right into another quest after this. But I made a promise to you guys. Not only is this the last streamed episode, we will also be making bank when it comes to progression. So I walk up to this guy here, and this is the Squire of Survivin', a good one, who is quite enjoying his job if it wasn't for the fact that he lost Survivin's sword.
Good one.
But haha, it isn't just any sword, of course, as only the Imkando dwarves, guess we should know that by now, are able to make this. But here's the catch, of course, we don't even know if those exist anymore. And somehow it, of course, yet again, seems all to be my problem now, and I gotta go to Varroc's library. So one teleport later, we have a nice talk with the fella Reldo, and essentially the dwarves in question pretty much don't exist anymore unless you're baking a red berry pie and bring it to them. Of course, how stupid of me. How did I not think of that myself? So let's figure out how to make red berry pie, I guess. Good thing I had some emergency red berries in the bank. And according to the recipe, we now only need to mix some flour with water to make some pastry dough. And now all I really need is a pie dish that miraculously was nowhere to be found. Unsure if general stores really aren't selling them, or if there is a connection to the 10 people following me around. Guess I'll never know, so I'd rather look through the Lumbridge kitchen. Surprisingly, there is nothing. And not even the guy I always come for help to when I struggle with professions has anything for me. This is not looking good, is it? But before I could even think about giving up, I checked out another kitchen in Varroc, and wouldn't you look at that pie dish? I am really glad that such a minor part of this quest yet again requires such a massive detour, but I once again come out on top in the end, I guess. So all that's left now is combining the ingredients, of course. And at my nearest trusted stove, we now possibly burn everything. But no, things for once actually go my way, so there's a change. But to be honest with you, I would completely have forgotten about the fact that I could have also burned the pie and all the ingredients with it. But with a red berry pie successfully in my inventory now, I can't wait to use it as diplomatic offer towards a certain dwarves. And that's them now. And it looks like there's just one left actually. And this is Thurgo from, funny enough, yet another baking incident from the past. It all makes sense now. We hand over the pie, my guy eats it, and also pats his stomach. Definitely compliments my baking skills, and sends me off to another errand because he needs a picture to make a replica. Well, of course he does. Let's see what the Squire has to say about all of this. For once with some good news, he tells us that there is actually a picture and Survivin keeps that in his cupboard in his room. But we're not allowed to let him catch us, as he mustn't know. And that's pretty much the name of the game. Once we eventually found the room together with the guy in question, we also instantly find the conveniently placed cupboard, but raiding that in front of the guy, not a good idea. Either my intrusive thoughts or the game itself tells me then that I should maybe lure him further away, which seems to be reasonably difficult if there is a multitude of people actually trying to speak with that guy, as his multitasking skills are definitely not on the level required for this task. And the moment he then turned into a genie, I definitely knew that that's not how we gonna get anything done here. I also don't really know why, when, or how, but he eventually ended up in the corner of his room, which was enough to now search his cupboard to start steal some pictures. Back at the one-of-his-kind dwarf, we are getting some good news as he can definitely do the replica, but of course he needs something for it. 2 iron bars to start with, but more importantly in a cave nearby, we have to bring him some bluerite, whatever that's gonna be. Locating the cave wasn't really the issue. What exactly to do in here was a bit of a bigger question. But there's this ant-like movement happening that kinda gives me a sense of where to go, I think. And now passing exactly the same Congo line where everyone is currently fighting someone, I definitely wonder if I should have fought my way through here. But so, without too much trouble, I hit a blue rock that, surprisingly, now gives me some bluerite in the form of an ore. And we actually need a bunch more of those, so let's also get ourselves some iron ores. And once I then saw that smelting iron actually has only a 50% success rate, you know, let's maybe get some more, because I already know what would have happened otherwise. Let's get smelting though, and I have to say I actually roll a insane 75% chance, so there's that at least. It still is the little victories for me in this game. It turns out that I cannot smelt the bluerite ore though, but a little later my suspicions got confirmed as, for once, I just have to bring all of it to the guy and he makes a sword. Pretty crazy technology when you think about it, but it actually gets crazy in just a second because simply giving the sword to the squire actually ends the quest. And also gives quite the smithing XP actually. And you know, while I'm here and given the actually reasonable success of my last quest, I am speaking to another great name, Ceramic Vars, or well, Ceramic Vase. Really great names around here. Anyways, he's introducing me to a certain Knight Race War. A story as old as time, really it is. White Knights versus Black Knights. And I will refrain from making any further comparisons here for self-preservation reasons. I mean, you can barely make a joke nowadays, so what will the scholars 100 years from now think when they review my footage for this? Yeah, never mind. Anyways, there seems to be a powerful new secret weapon, and someone with a little bit more subtle wardrobe now has to play spy and infiltrate the place. And as per usual, I'll do my best. A minor footwalk later, we are instantly greeted by, well, the aforementioned Black Knights. Given the fact that they attack me instantaneously and don't seem to be of the friendly folk, this whole ordeal now has a personal level to it as well. Not that I really needed additional motivation to do this. The dopamine points seem to still do the trick for me, so I rather knock on the door. And the voice from the inside does not believe that I work there. Apparently I don't wear the correct clothes, which I'm starting to be really happy that I don't make a single episode out of just this quest, because I can see my humor go very sideways at this point. For some reason I am then told what the uniform looks like, and apparently I do wonder if I could obtain these just recently named items. And yet there's still people worried that I wouldn't make it very far if I play this game without quest helpers. Regardless, after then spending almost over 3 minutes just to beat up one guy and instantly being attacked by another, I grabbed my stuff, as I have to obtain certain items. This time I also took the a little bit more time-friendly approach, as technically I know how to get these items myself now. But I'm more and more understanding the appeal of an Iron Man run, and the more and more I actually get respect for the people doing that. Holy shit. Imagine having to now level mining and smithing to a point where you could even start the quest. My god. I'd rather be entering random military facilities as an undercover agent. What follows isn't really different to my usual approach. I, in a completely confused manner, just randomly am wandering around this place, until I find what I'm looking for. As a reward for making it through this maze is me being allowed to eavesdrop on a conversation. TLDR is this is the invincibility potion. Wow. After 5 years of work, it's pretty much done. All that has to happen is that this guy has to get a cabbage from Draenor Manor, and only from there. Or else that would entirely wreck the potion. Oh no! Now let's imagine, just hypothetically, there would be one brave hero collecting a cabbage from somewhere else, and out of curiosity also collect a real one. And let's say that he then just tries to take the direct approach through a bunch of guards, which turns out to be not the correct approach, as those were merely a distraction, and the same room offered a ladder upstairs. Touché, RuneScape. Touché. But now imagine, still hypothetically of course, we drop the cabbage from up above in a cutscene, making it land inside the potion, possibly provoking a bunch of very important and also very confusing lines of dialogue, and technically going back to the guy where everything started should then also end everything. But then again, that is just me and my theory. Way more important actually is if you eat cabbage from the spooky house, you actually get a buff. But then again, I really want to stress, all of this is just hypothetical. But in reality, I actually went on a cruise and now I'm on this island. So why would I do that exactly? Well, there is a certain captain that really needs my help because his crew is cursed. But no one really knows why, and this is where someone comes in. So first things first, we gotta interview some crew members. And that's them there right now. So this here is Arson, but he first of all sends us to Itui in a hut nearby first. Finding a hut nearby first seems to be a little bit of an issue though, because I pretty much look all over the place just to eventually figure out it would have been here all along, but you know, I have the roofs turned off, which in this case is the entire thing. Anyways, Itoi or whatever, but he's telling me all sorts of stories from his adventures, but nothing useful. So back to Arson it is, and now he's ready to admit that he thinks he cursed everyone by stealing an ogre artifact. And he sends me to speak to the captain. After I tell him all I know, I'm given the ogre artifact and once again off to look for a cave with ogres in the hopes of giving back the stolen goods, lifting the curse. After a little detour to whatever this place might eventually be, finding the ogre cave was a little bit easier this time around. I see that there is potential for fighting, but fine, I'll settle for talking this time around. This is Chief Tess, and she then informs me that the sacred ogre artifact is merely her toothpick, and she has actually plenty more, and I shouldn't really bother with any of this. Well, at least I have some good news for our boy here. Good thing there's another boy next to him. A cabin boy, to be precise, and his name is Colin, and he used a telescope, and now everyone's cursed. Of course, well, there's a bit of a better reason. He sexually harassed a mermaid. Unsure if that's a better reason, but oh well. So I guess someone has to investigate himself. And the alleged mermaid looks awfully close to an ogre. Well, good news once again. My dear cabin boy, you actually sexually harassed an ogre instead. Thank God. I mean, in his defense, it was dark and it was just blowing a kiss, but you know. It's 2023 and I think that's enough for him to have a lot of jail time now. But for me, there's one crew member left. This one's Notchi. He's the cook. He of course also has an idea why all of this is happening, and to him it's because of a possessed doll, as you can see in the cinematic masterpiece. Well, or if we look a little closer, it's a mechanical doll that is pretty suicidal. Once again, good news for the guys, but definitely not any helpful for me. So let's try the guy in the invisible hut again. He had nothing interesting for me, but we haven't really spoken to the captain yet, have we? And here we now get the news that, well, everyone magically started feeling sick after the food. And Itoi felt ill even though he didn't eat any. Well, invisible hut again, but he is sure it must have been a curse and there is no way it was the food. So obviously we now ask the cook, who now reveals that it was actually Itoi who was making the food this time around, because he was still too scared because of a possessed doll. I mean, we've been over this. Nothing makes any sense anymore here. That is until those two boys reveal to us that dear Itoi soon is out of a job because someone is replacing him and there isn't much need for a navigator role anymore. Well, could it be? And it very much can be, because he instantly confesses up once I confront him with this situation. situation that he poisoned everyone. He also mentioned that no one would believe me though, which turns out to be correct, so there was only one option really. Exactly, we burned down his house to prove that he's obviously faking it. Here we learn that he actually knows a bit more than just navigation, and a direct confrontation with the matter at hand slightly escalates as he starts throwing all sorts of colors at me. Given the fact that I'm a RuneScape professional, I this time actually switched my gear for once. And just like that, a few minutes later and a few fish later, we land the killing blow and the guy disappears. Just like that. No one seems to really wonder where he went, but we yet again heroically saved the day. Well, however heroically running around and eventually burning down someone's house could possibly be. Well, and speaking of heroes, there was also this incident where I am also not quite sure whether we, in this case, really are the heroes or whether this was a very much villain action, but decide for yourself. I was merely just minding my own business at my most favorite place in RuneScape, the Lumbridge Bank of course, and I don't quite remember what exactly I was doing, but I did definitely not pay attention to the chat. But all of you guys did, and this is where we apparently decided to adopt 66 Soon Wild, as he doesn't know what to do and he never played RuneScape before. How embarrassing. Imagine. Well, be that as it may, what follows is utmost chaos as I for the first time enter full Asmongold mode, because all of you guys are now trying to coach two absolute noobs through a quest, which coincidentally is the last quest remaining before we enter Dragon Slayer. Because this is the moment where someone made the executive decision that we are gonna do a quest together. And while I was still processing what the hell actually happened right now, I was apparently now leading a conga line of people together with an absolute new player somewhere far into Varrock. And I didn't even know why. I did know Reldo though, and I somehow now accumulated like around 20 clowns, and we're starting the Shield of Araf. But first we have to read way too much text. TLDR here being that there essentially is a shield, very valuable, but there was a Varrock gang stealing it in a daring heist. Now there's technically a reward if you return it. And Reldo then gives us a little bit of a pointer where we could find a little information on the Phoenix gang, the guys that stole the shield. Also, what the fuck is this? We make sure our new friend also has the quest, and then we make out to look for the guy in question. And after just a slight detour due to yours truly, we now need Barek, who after a minor financial setback of 20 coins is telling us where to go. And now we are essentially forming two teams. One is coaching me and one is coaching the other noob, as apparently you have to do two different lines of this quest at the same time. No idea what's currently going on with my new friend right now, but Team Bad Sibis definitely found the first location, as this here is the Phoenix gang hideout. Allegedly, of course. But then again, my incredible conversation skills, and this guy pretty much confirms everything in an instant. But if someone allegedly wanted to join, he would allegedly have to go to the Blue Moon Inn and allegedly kill a guy. Well, allegedly. So I allegedly went to the inn in question, already a group of people waiting there, and I then allegedly murdered a guy in broad daylight, and I acquire myself the intel report that someone allegedly might need. If that won't get me into the gang, then I really don't know. And wouldn't you know that handing over the reports instantly nets me a membership in this group of nice fellas. On top of that, I'm getting a key. Said key allows me to enter this place here, which I actually have to do alone because no one else has the key. But turns out this place was merely just a distraction, as I actually have to search in the hideout for the first half of the shield. Because of course, my team only has one half, and the other half has the rival gang, whoever came up with that plan. But yeah, that's pretty much what my new friend is currently doing. And turns out the key that I've just gotten isn't as useless as I thought it was. It's actually the key my guy needs to get his half. Well, my job is pretty much just clicking on a chest. Through that action, I obtain the half of the shield that I'm supposed to be getting. Then we're entering this house, which has actually nothing to do with my task, but this is where our new friend is currently doing his part of the quest. But once he finished obtaining his half of the shield, it was time to cash in the reward at the king. Well, at least so I thought, pretty much because the game told me so earlier, but yeah, allegedly that was wrong. We actually have to go to the museum, which which kind of makes more sense now that I think about it, as this is the place where the shield was stolen from initially. And merely one really friendly conversation with curator Hi Holland, and I now have 2 sheets of paper certifying me a half of a shield brought back, if that made any sense. But here's the catch of this quest essentially. My friend has the other half. And for each of us to be able to get the reward, we obviously need the other sheet of paper. But remember the time where I was new and I couldn't trade with other players? Guess what? This is how new of a player my new friend is. RuneScape creators saw this coming though, and you can just use the certificate on your friend and he can then pick it up from the ground, so at least there's that. Him doing the same pretty much ensures my half of the cut, and armed with the certificate, it is now time for both of us to cash in. The cheapskate the king is, he argues that I only found half the shield, so I only get half the money, but well, okay then. Regardless of that minor scam, this not only ends the quest, this also ends a very interesting day in my life at RuneScape. And as much as I get why people hate others dictating my gameplay, doing this quest by pretty much having 50 other people do it for the 2 of us was quite a journey actually. I personally enjoyed it a lot, but I always enjoy interacting with people in-game. But for everyone else, I can also tell you that this is also the end of streamed footage. And even though I wasn't doing the quests in chronological order, I think you all might have now realized that this was the last I had to do before starting Dragon Slayer. Unsure what that really means at this point in time, definitely excited, and given the fact that I will now do it by myself, alone, blind, and without any guides, boy is this gonna be a journey, I'm sure. But in case that doesn't make any sense to you, then you've come to the wrong place.